podcast is powered by Audiohaus Dublin.
I've got some projects in Ireland in like Kerry. So like Kerry's the most isolated, strangest but best place in the world in all of Ireland. So apologies to anyone from Kerry. You know you're weird. But
welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're here with Colin Keogh, who is a researcher at UCD and co-founder of Rapid Foundation. Go on, give us a little bit of information about yourself.
No, but I thought you said just let me just hear your accent. It's a brilliant accent. So I'm a research engineer, which is a great terminology for absolutely nothing. Now, basically what it means is I do R&D projects with companies or universities or governments or whatever, and just develop and implement new technologies, basically. So things from 3D printing to augmented virtual reality, innovation systems, recycling projects, a little bit of everything and anything really. So I will work with anybody once they have an interesting problem to be solved and fixed. So that's my day job. And from that then, a couple of years ago, I think it was 2014, I co-founded the Rapid Foundation with a colleague of mine, Dr. Shane Keaveney, and he's also an engineer. And what the Rapid Foundation did was it was like a charity kind of project to do it using 3D printing for overseas development. So helping people innovate and be creative overseas with 3D printing, which is the coolest technology in the world, really. So you guys don't have one. I'll have to give you one. Yeah.
That's what, one of the things is you're a problem solver, obviously.
Yeah.
So I saw on your TED Talk, it's like what you can solve problems in any sort of sphere as long as people come to you with a policy, government policy or whatever, and you find solutions to certain things. And what are some of the solutions you came up with?
Oh, it can be weird, like, but I'd even kind of say it's not me. I can't solve. Everybody can solve these things, so it's not just me. Like that's that talk I did. The TED Talk was innovation for everybody. Like everybody can solve all of these problems. Like you don't have to be super qualified. You don't have to have gone to university. You don't have to have any sort of like measurable skill set. Like you have insight and you have creativity that you can solve problems with. Like everyone can solve the problem. So I spend an awful lot of my work does that, trying to find ways to help people that maybe don't think they can solve these problems but have such insight on it. It makes them the experts on that problem, solve these things. So an example is like some of the projects we've worked on in the past was like, you know, we've done some work in India, and we were in the slums in India, and we had a problem we were working out of an orphanage in India. And the orphanage didn't have an awful lot of materials. Like it's an orphanage in the slums in the slums in India. It's worse than you could think it would be. For whatever you're imagining, it's probably worse than that. Yeah. But we had lots of school kids were in it, and at the time we'd sent our 3D printer kit out there with the idea of we were going to make medical devices. But when we planted it into the orphanage in India, it realized education tools and toys were exactly what everyone needed. Yeah. So imagine trying to explain the idea of, I don't get too sciencey, but of cellular structures, the structures of cells. Imagine trying to explain that to a group of kids in India that don't have primary school education without books or images or computers. Like it's next to impossible. But we could use 3D printing systems to print a model, and a three-dimensional, like kind of, scaled model with different cutouts of this complicated structure. And then the teachers there could use it to teach kids these very, very complicated kind of concepts that they couldn't teach them otherwise. Like that's an example of one. Other ones, I've got some projects in Ireland in like Kerry. So like Kerry's the most isolated, strangest but best place in the world in all of Ireland. So apologies to anyone from Kerry. You know you're weird. But yeah, so like down there we're looking at ways to engage the community with environmental waste. So marine waste and plastics in the seas. Everyone's seen Blue Planet, and it came on, and David Attenborough told you about all the fish are full of plastic and it's terrible, and everyone, like, their hearts broke and they said we need to fix it, and then 2 days later they don't give a shit anymore. But so we're looking at ways to solve problems like that by directly involving the community. So we're done community projects. We're focusing on kids and we're focusing on adults in the community so they can understand what happens to the plastic material when it gets into the sea, how much value's in it if they recycle it properly, that sort of thing. And then I've worked on a range of other things, from like designing new medical devices to designing some prosthetics. I've worked on some projects before looking at putting solar panels into roofs of cars, so like a quite recognisable large car manufacturer based out of Italy, and looking at integrating solar panels into their cars to see if everyone's going to have solar panels on their roofs of their cars in the future. So an insider hint is they're not going to.
No.
It doesn't work. But it's not viable. It's not efficient. The amount of energy that goes into it doesn't pay back until well beyond the life of the car.
Yeah.
So that sort of stuff. And then other things like education programs and outreach and anything really. Yeah. So like, as we talked about when we met before, I just like solving problems. It doesn't matter what they are. Like, that was my background. Worked in fixing cars. The car would come in, it would be broken. You'd find the problem, you'd fix that problem, and then it's fixed and it goes back out again. So I do the same thing, just on more complicated problems. Like, so the joke that I tell people is, I don't think it was in the talk I gave actually, is like, I can fix anything. If your government is broken, I'll fix that. If your car's broken, we'll fix that. If your economy's broken, we'll fix that. You can fix everything but a broken heart, kind of thing. Like, you know what I mean? That's can't fix that. That's for alcohol or Ben and Jerry's, depending on the audience. So like, kids get Ben and Jerry's, everyone gets drink your problems away. But yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
You mentioned in your TED talk about how when you were a kid, you grew up sort of fixing all these little problems. You had your Lego and all this sort of stuff. I hate to keep bringing up the TED talk, but it's our favorite source of information on you. But do you think like that sort of upbringing, like even given kids in India and in developing countries, the sort of like infrastructure to learn in that way, do you think that's like a big factor in inspiring you to innovate?
Definitely.
Now?
Like, that is innovation. That's what it's about. Like, innovation doesn't happen in, it's a lot of people look at like, Tesla and Elon Musk and say that's innovation, that you have to be like this James Bond level villain billionaire genius guy to be innovative and creative. Like, you don't. Like, that's not. I'm honestly convinced that the solutions to the world's problems aren't going to come from Elon Musk. They're not going to come from Bill Gates. They're not going to come from universities. They're going to come from normal people that just have collected a number of life experiences that allow them specific insight to these problems.
Yeah.
So like, I've always said, and I've said it for years, I'm convinced, like, the solution to the problem or the cure to cancer is very, very likely, in my mind, to be locked away in the brain of a kid in a slum in India or somebody in rural Africa that just, their life hasn't played out in a way that lets them, release this solution. Yeah. So I'm convinced of that. So a lot of the stuff I do is kind of, relates to people, and like, you relate to what they like doing. Everyone in the world has nearly played with Lego at this stage. You know what I mean? It's like, it's the same kind of thing. It's building, it's creative, it's been innovative, but it's also quite technical. And like, I don't know, like, did you know that like Lego bricks are one of the most toleranced objects in the world? So, if you don't know what tolerance is from in engineering, it's like, the amount of error between a size of a part. If a part is like a millimeter wide, the tolerance is how close to that millimeter is it, is it plus or minus a fraction. So like, Lego bricks are one of the most engineered objects in the world, and like, nobody gives it a second thought. Like, what I mean? Every single Lego brick that's ever been manufactured will connect with every single Lego brick that's yet to be manufactured. That's insane.
That's mad.
You know what I mean? You think about it, like none of the Tesla bits do that. You know what I mean? You drive a Tesla and bits of it will fall off, kind of thing. Like, they can't get to that level. So Lego and simplicity and creativity and innovation is everything. Like, that's why it's like, I do a lot of stuff with kids, and like, the innovation the kids have are just, it's just crazy. It's not bounded by any sort of adult boring logic. You know what I mean? It's kind of, so like, I've worked with corporate innovation teams and teams in universities, and the way they see the world is kind of like, if we want to improve it, we will spend $10 million to get a 5% improvement. And it's like, oh, that's what we do. It's part of their job. It's a measurable metric. Whereas like, kids and like normal Joe Public kind of thing are kind of like, well, why do we do it at all that way? Why don't we why do we have to get the bus? Why does everyone not have rocket boots kind of thing? Yeah, it's unlikely, but they're thinking in the right way.
Yeah.
Just because a million people haven't succeeded in making rocket boots yet doesn't mean this one person with the idea is not going to make rocket boots.
Yeah.
And if they do, I'm buying that shit.
Yeah.
I want rocket boots. Like, so that's where I think like people like Elon Musk and all are excellent for that. As in, they kind of let people stretch the boundaries a little bit. You know what I mean? He's kind of like, oh, we're going to do electric cars now. Do you know anything about it? No. So what? And now they're the best electric cars in the world. Yeah. Now we're going to go into space. Like, we're going to send my car into space. Like a massive waste of time. And like a big like dick measuring competition for him to kind of say, look what I can put into space. Like, fuck all you guys. But like still, it's kind of... Like, that's cool though. Like, how many people are going to look at that and say, oh, that's really cool. Like, I wonder, can I do anything, something like that?
Yeah,
so that's kind of... Like, the challenge, I think, is open. So anyone that can go and collect Elon Musk's original Tesla Roadster from floating around in space, I think they can keep it. He said, if you can get it and bring it back to Earth, it's yours.
Yeah.
Now, like, if that was me and I had shitloads of cash, I'd literally go out and get it on purpose. And, like, I'd drop it outside his office one day, and then he's kind of like, how the fuck did that come back? Like, that sort of... a little bit of mischief is always good. Like.
In his face. Yeah,
it's always good.
And working with all these... you personally haven't been in all these countries, that's what you said to me.
No.
But working with all these, say, disadvantaged countries and putting in the 3D printers and stuff, has your team seen any sort of an impact?
Yeah. So we've had an awful lot of it. Like, it's real hard to measure impact in general.
Yeah.
And especially since, so the way that we set up the foundation originally was, me and my co-founder had lots of experience in 3D printing, but we're limited. There's only two of us, and our time, you know, we work on an awful lot of projects. We work full time on things. We realized very early on that if we went overseas to solve these problems, like, nothing would really change. Like, you know, people would wait for us to come in to solve the problem, and then if we left, that'd be the end of the problem been solved. You know, that sort of thing. It's kind of reliant on like overseas intervention, which is never good. So from the beginning, we tried to devise a way that we could send equipment and send support and training to the people and let them solve their own problems. Like, mainly for us not to dilute the water kind of too much, you know, it's because it happens a lot. You know what I mean? If you've worked in, like, if we're sitting here and I tell you an idea, I'd say, oh, my idea is we're going to build cities on Mars, whatever. But if you've tried to build cities on Mars for like 10 years and failed, you're going to be like, well, fuck your idea. It's stupid. It doesn't work. I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't mean I can't do it. You know what I mean? It's kind of, there's an awful lot of bias people have. Yeah. So we've tried to remove that. But yeah, we've seen an awful lot of impact. And it's real hard to measure kind of this sort of impact because it's in individual people. Yeah. And you can kind of see them, like, you know, they're interested in science and technology. They want to stay in school for longer. Yeah. They've seen a technology and they're like, holy shit, we can do loads of stuff with this. So it's real small, and we don't try and measure it in that sort of way as well, because if we did, we're concerned that it's gonna impact what we want to do. Yeah. You know what I mean? If we set a load of metrics and then we try and meet them, if the metrics aren't perfect at the beginning, we're gonna taint what we're gonna do. So so we've seen an awful lot of impact on it, and it's worked. Like, so, you know, it's you know what I mean. When we came up with this idea of using the technology to help people solve their own problems in their country, very few people had done it, if any, at the time before. It was a new idea, which is why we won all the awards we did, and we've done work with the UN, and we've done some work with like Irish charities, and you know, it's got me on the Forbes list. So it was new, like it was a brand new kind of concept at the time. So we've still kind of progressing it. Yeah,
it's good that you get all this media attention and say the Forbes 30 under 30. Yeah, because that just really does promote what you're doing.
That's exactly the whole point of it. Like, that is it from design. Like, I would rather not do it, to be honest. Like, I would happily be at home, you know, playing the PlayStation and drinking beers all day. That'd be great. Like, that'd be excellent. But we want to extend the idea of this, you know, technology can solve the world's problems. 3D printing is a great system. If it has to come through me or my co-founder doing interviews or podcasts like this or whatever it may be to get the word out, great. Because in our idea is the more people that hear about what we do, they will then hopefully contact us and let us know and say, you know, oh, I have a niece or a nephew that needs a prosthetic hand and they can't get one. Can you make one? Or, you know, I volunteer overseas in a developmental project in Thailand. Do you think you could send a machine over there? Or that sort of thing. It's kind of, it's like a community based thing, because an awful lot of tech and development and research has gone away from people and it's kind of been like commercialized. It's kind of, you know, it's either academic or it's business focused, or it's like people should be helping each other. You know what I mean? Whether you're helping each other with, you know, painting a wall or printing off somebody in prosthetic hand, it's the same kind of thing. Like, it's, yeah.
That's what once we were driving home, the whole crew, and in the car we were kind of wondering why some of these countries in Africa are behind a bit in terms of their country not being fully developed technologically and stuff, and we wondered what those factors were, and it kind of came down to intelligence, not even intelligence but education. And that's what would you say that education is a big part of why some of these countries haven't developed?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it's a part. Like, that's one of the problems that are further on down the chain. So, like as you said, it's funny that you said intelligence. I know you meant education, but intelligence in that case, everyone we've worked with is way smarter than the average Irish person. Like, you know, we're fine here. We're pampered here. You know what I mean? If your life falls to bits and it's the worst it could be, you go on the dole and you're paid quite well to live a decent life, and there's lots of support, and, you know, there's no war, there's nobody coming along to hack your arm off with a machete kind of thing, and it's mental. Whereas, like, and because of that, in these developing regions where they have these big problems, it makes everyone so much sharper. Like, it's kind of, you know what I mean? If we have an idea for a business, great, we can go and put like £1 million into it, and if it doesn't work, whatever, we'll try another one. You can't do that in the third world. Like, you know, if you need to solve, we don't have any water on our farm, we need to get it from a mile away, how are we going to fix it? If you don't get the water, all your crops die and then you die. You know what I mean? It's kind of like do or die innovative thing, and it makes you way sharper than anyone else. Like,
that's what I wonder what it would be like if we tried to survive over there.
We'd all be dead.
We'd be dead. Like,
we'd be useless. We're way too soft. Like, it's not going to work at all. We're massively too soft. Like, it's... Yeah, but then it's the other way. Is you think, look what happened. Imagine what would happen if you gave a country like Uganda the resources that we have. You educate everyone in Uganda and give them an opportunity for college. Like, it's insane. So, like, to me, one of the biggest areas of growth in the world is going to be Africa in particular. So, like, you look at it. So, you look at places like Rwanda. Had a terrible genocide years ago. You make films about it. It was that bad. Like, you know what I mean? It was terrible. Now Rwanda's doing really, really well. Like, you know, it's stable, it's peaceful. A lot of people are getting educated. Their economic growth is brilliant. They've got homegrown and external companies coming in. That's in like 20 years. Like, you know what I mean? They're going to massively whoop our ass now relatively soon. Like, it's kind of, there's a creativity with it.
That's what it fascinates me about. I don't know if you've seen Black Panther. But Wakanda, that's just mad to think that
I want to live in Wakanda.
Yeah, same here,
exactly,
man.
Like,
that's
I
the dream.
to live there. That's exactly the kind of stuff. Like, and that was excellent for that. You know what I mean? And there's kind of, you know, this idea that I think that was one of whoever wrote it or the guy that directed it, whatever his name was. He like that had to have been a main point of what he was trying to convey with that. It had to be kind of like, Africa's not this kind of ramshackle shithole. You know what I mean? It's got loads of stuff inherently in it. And it would probably be doing much, much better if it wasn't for us Europeans having fucked it up for years. Like, you arrive in and say, oh, yeah, all you people work for us and do what we tell you, and we're going to dig out all of that gold and give it to us, and give us all your diamonds and give it to us, and pump your oil and give it to us. And so, like, it's going to change. It's going to make the world way more, like, complex in how it operates, and power will shift around a lot more, and it's an interesting thing. Like, I hope Wakanda's there. Be cool. I want to go live there. That'd be excellent. Like, I want like energy gauntlets and purple herbs and all of that sort of stuff. Like, that's exactly what you want. Exactly.
I think it's mad. Even like people don't realize how far it's come. How far like Africa has come in the last 50 years. Like how much better like education systems and like everything is now. Compared to like the 1980s, it's staggering. Like,
it's insane.
People don't look at that because, you know,
it's
we're
insane.
always like,
everyone's like, truthfully, everyone's like used to troker boxes. You know what I mean? You find a photograph of like a malnourished kid on, and you put money in it and think you're helping, kind of thing. Like, you know, it's not like that. So even if you look at the technology, right? So just like up until like I think it was like the late 70s or early 80s, there was places in Ireland that didn't have electricity. Like, that's insane. Like, it took us ages to get like caught up with the thing. Whereas if you then reference that to Africa, there's some parts in Africa that have completely skipped the need for telephone lines at all. There's no main lines or hard lines in some countries in Africa. They skipped the need for it and went straight to digital. So you've got mobile phone penetration is crazy. The use of it's insane. They just skipped like home landline telephones. There's still millions of people in Ireland with a landline telephone that never rings.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's insane. So if you look at it, it's kind of like all the development we've done over years, Africa and other places in the world can just like jump over all of that and like claim where we are now. And the fact is, when that gets into people's mindset, it does really interesting stuff. Like, so it's like if you take like Uganda. So if I ask you now, you said, who would you think the biggest supplier of clothes in Uganda would be? Like, who would you think? You know, you'd kind of think, oh, is it Amazon? Is it like, you know, their equivalent of like Lidl or Aldi or whatever, a homegrown? No, it's not. It's WhatsApp. So like WhatsApp technically is the biggest supplier of clothing in Uganda. Which is insane, and insane. You say it to people, they're like, how the fuck does that work?
How does it work?
It's like WhatsApp sends you a package. No, but it's kind of like the way Africa works is they buy our clothes. You know, you put them in the clothes bank and they're sent away, and they buy clothes by weight. Yeah. Which is great, but you don't know what's in the bag. You know what I mean? You buy 10 kilos of clothes, it could be 10 kilos of like shitty t-shirts from, you know what I mean, something you don't want, like, you know what I mean, crazy stuff. But what WhatsApp allows people to do is somebody will buy 10 kilos of clothes, separate all the objects out individually, take a photograph of them all, of each individual piece, and then send it to these kind of ad hocly formed like buying groups, kind of like group purchase schemes. And in the space of a couple of seconds nearly, somebody would say, oh, that's great, I want the red t-shirt, I'll have the 2 pairs of jeans and that pair of shoes. So in the space of like seconds, you've broken down 10 kilos of clothes and sold it to 500 different people. Nobody arranged that structure. Like, you know, there's no government, nobody set these groups up. People set them up on their own.
Pure resourcefulness.
It's insane. Like,
efficiency,
you know what I mean?
As well,
It's super efficient. And it's like seconds they're breaking down these things. Imagine trying to get a company to do that. It'd be mental. It'd take them 10 years to write a plan on how to do it. And
Make
then they'd worry
app,
about, you'd make an app. Brilliant, exactly. No, just use this.
They'd make an app
like,
to sell on WhatsApp, like.
Exactly. Yeah, they make an app to take the information from WhatsApp to sell it to eBay to do loads of mad stuff. Whereas this is take a photograph of it, send it to the 500 people in my group that I know do this regularly. Let's hack it up and everyone gets what they want. Like, it's.
And I'd say they're clear. They have tunnel vision on their problems and solving their problems, and that's why probably if you just gave them the resources, they'd figure everything out.
Probably. Like, they still need an awful lot of guidance. Like, and the world's a complicated place. Like, and technology moves very, very quickly. And like a lot of people in particular that aren't experienced in technology kind of are afraid of it. Like, you're not going to jump in with both feet in something you don't know anything about. So, you know, like computer literacy is still quite poor in most of Africa. They have a lot of mobile phones, but they're like some smartphones, but an awful lot of older type phones. They have like WAP still in an awful lot of places. I mean, a lot of people don't even remember what that is. Like, you know, they have old school stuff. It works for them, but you know what I mean? To operate on a global stage, you need support and you need training and you need help and advice. And so, like, in my opinion, like, you know, massive online courses, whatever they're called, MOOCs, you know, massive open online courses, things like edX and like Coursera that are on the internet, I think they're going to be massive in Africa. Like, as soon as people have access to reliable internet and a local computer, they're just going to eat up this information. And I can imagine very, very quickly, like, the best coders in the world will come from Africa. The best developers in the world will come from Africa. Just because you're in a location, you need to progress your life. You've nothing else to do. You'll just get stuck in with this ravenous appetite to devour this content. Like, it's and we don't do that here. Like, you think about it, like, how many phones are in this room now? Like, we all have at least one, probably 2 for some people. There's like 6 phones,
computers, laptops, everything.
How many
cameras.
places? Yeah, exactly, cameras. We have all of this stuff, and all of them we can access all of the world's information. And what do we use it for? Like, what's the last thing you did on your phone? Like, I sent you a message to say I was outside, or you know what I mean? You took a photograph of your dinner, or earlier on I took a photograph of the Christmas lights on Grafton Street. For what? So I can show everyone that follows me I was on Grafton Street. Aren't these lights pretty? You know what I mean? We could access all the world's information on these phones, and we use it for stupid shit. Like Instagram is the world's stupidest company. Yeah, what's it for? It's either look at my fancy car, look at my new clothes, look at me, look at how hot I am, look at my fancy dinner. Who gives a shit? Like, it's mental. You could use that to learn about everything about building new nuclear reactors. No. Take my photograph of my Pokeball.
You can use it to listen to podcasts.
You can use it to listen to podcasts.
There we go.
You can use it to watch like 2 lads dressed as monks for an inexplicable reason. You never tell me why, but yeah, you can do loads of stuff with it. You know what I mean? It's exactly.
It's crazy, yeah, big time. Even like with like college, I find like I'm doing science in Trinity and Trinity.
I won't hold it against you.
Trinity.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I was going to
shouldn't
say
have said
I
that.
wouldn't hold that against you, but
Yeah.
since you did that thing, I definitely hold it against you.
Yeah, don't
I'm from
worry.
UCD. Why did you
I like
choose
them
wrong?
as little as you do, but like I find a lot of the lecturers, you know, they seem to have this thing where, you know, the more they do it, the harder it is for them to sort of communicate it to the people who are just beginners, you know, and the internet for me, like just even videos on YouTube of people who are learning it and people who are in third year in chemistry and stuff, like, are so much more helpful. Like I've taught myself organic chemistry on the internet
Yeah.
because I'm so bad at listening
It's insane.
in class.
It's crazy,
stuff.
like.
Oh, it is, like, but there is such a wealth of like information. If you dig deep enough, you can find you can teach yourself pretty much anything. Which is madness.
And it's gonna do, like, disrupt the world in a big way. Like, I had
Yeah.
the same problem. It makes sense, you know. You have somebody that's taught the same subject for maybe 40 years,
yeah,
and like, you know, it gets stayed. They're an expert in what
yeah,
they
of course,
did
yeah.
30 years ago, and they're very they're very hesitant to open out into something else. You know, it's not easy for you to be the best at something, and then all of a sudden the field you're the best at, nobody gives a shit anymore. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's rough.
I'm sure like the world's best rotary phone dialer is pretty pissed now that they don't exist anymore. You know, that sort of stuff. And like they're like you can see it for like drafting. So like
Yeah.
draftsmen used to hand draw all of the plans. Super artistic, super amazing technical skill. Doesn't happen anymore because it's all done on a computer.
Yeah.
See what I mean? This sort of stuff progresses. But even like, as you said, YouTube. So like I met a guy recently, Trevor. Hello, Trevor. I'll send it to you. Don't worry. You'll be happy. And he taught himself a huge amount of stuff on YouTube.
Yeah.
He devours YouTube.
Yeah.
And like, he massively impressed me with how good at an awful lot of this stuff he was. And
Yeah.
he'd never ever trained in it at all. He just devours YouTube content. And he said in the course of a couple of weeks, he can learn 90% the same amount of like an engineering degree. You know, that sort
Yeah.
of thing. You can, and then you think about it, who you're learning from. You can learn from the best in the
Yeah.
world
Yeah.
at your own speed, whoever you want. You know, if you need to listen to a video 10 times to understand it, great. You can listen to it 10 times at your own time. If you need to listen to it at twice the speed, like I've met some people that listen to podcasts and videos at twice, 3 times the speed just to absorb content. Now that's insane. Like it's
crazy.
it's crazy that they do
Yeah.
it, but it's fully acceptable to you. Imagine doing that when you were in college. You put your hand up and tell the lecturer, "Hey, you're going too fast. Will you go at half speed?"
Yeah.
You're not gonna do it, or you kind of say, "This is really boring. Can we skip this boring shit and go on to something else?" Like, you can do that on the
I
internet.
know this stuff already.
I know this stuff already. Can we go on ahead? You can do that on the internet,
Yeah.
and then you can go and you can listen to the Feynman lectures. Like Richard Feynman was one of the guys that built the atomic bomb, one of the best physicists that has ever lived. You can listen to all his lectures online.
Yeah. Same with Jordan Peterson.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Well, his stuff is a little bit different.
It's a bit more.
His don't put Richard Feynman and him in the same category. Ian Peterson's stuff's interesting, but he's not no Richard Feynman. So like,
Sorry,
it's
I actually don't know who he is.
no, Richard, you know who Richard Feynman is. So you know the big nasty nuclear bombs.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did most of the equations and maths behind them. So he's a clever
a
dude.
smart dude. Eh?
He's a smart
Yeah.
dude. Yeah, he's
That's
a
the thing.
smart
The other
dude.
day for a group assignment in college, I was on JSTOR, which is like a online article
Yep.
website, and I couldn't find this one book, and it was like printed version. I'm like, what the fuck am I gonna do now? And then I actually had to go and search where it is in my library, because I'm there sitting in the library just searching for articles online.
Yeah.
I had to actually get up and find the book, and I was like, what the fuck am I doing?
Exactly.
Yeah, and then I opened the book. I opened the first page of contents, and I'm like, this shit is not getting read. Close it back over. Keep searching online. It's too inefficient. Like,
No, it's not gonna work. And I think that
And
happens
you know,
to me all
Control
the time.
F.
Yeah, exactly. Control F. Did you not see you can get Control F for real life now? There's an app you can get. I seen it on Twitter the other day, and it works with your camera. You point your camera at written text, and you can Control F written text. That's insane. Like, that's insane. Like, it's crazy. Imagine that. You know, there's a big list of written text, and you're looking for a little bit, and you just search for it, and it shows you where it is.
You don't
Yeah.
even look at it yourself. You just let your camera look
No,
for you.
exactly. Now that's gonna make us shit lazy. Like, we're gonna be terrible.
you're right,
So,
you're
like, you know, if anything breaks, we're screwed. Like,
Do you ever think
it's
we're
insane.
gonna get to that Wally stage? You know.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people are like that now.
Mm.
Like, there's a lot of people like that now, to be honest. But yeah, no, it is. It's something that's like, I think people are gonna go the opposite direction. I think it started already. So if you look at Facebook, So Facebook, you know, is a big $1 billion company, despite the fact the world hates them now for being evil.
Yeah.
But if you look at the amount of people under 30 that are deleting their Facebook accounts, it's huge. It's like 40% of the user base is deleting their Facebook accounts. So like, I think a lot of people were worried that we'd live all our lives online and digitally, whereas now a lot of people are pulling away from social media. Like, everyone knows it's fake. Like, everyone does know it's fake.
Yeah,
you
there's no
present the
illusion.
best of the best forever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like your world is not going to crumble to pieces and you're going to take a photograph of yourself crying in the toilet. Like, it's not going to happen. You won't do that. You know what I mean? So people are pulling away from it, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
But then I also think there's huge amounts of problems coming again with, like, as soon as VR's real good, we're fucked.
Yeah.
Like, nobody's ever going out at all.
Yeah, I saw that thing. Mark Zuckerberg when he first debuted the Facebook VR,
Yeah.
and it's you can literally sit, you can put on your VR thing and watch a movie with all your VR friends.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
It's insane.
Like
It's crazy. Like, a lot of people will love that, but I also think a lot of people won't like that. You know what I mean? Watching a movie is not like, it makes sense. Like, you don't go to the cinema and you're not gonna have the chats with the lad next to you because it's a cinema. It's not. But you know what I mean? Socializing, you can't replicate a pub in VR. Like, it's not how it works. You
wait
can't.
for it. You're gonna put on your
Listen, you're
VR.
not
Boys, we're going to the pub today. Just
Yeah.
switches. You got a pint in front of you. That
You're
you
drinking
prepared
your
earlier.
digital
You're just
pints of water, and it's not gonna. But like, that's a whole new thing of crazy load of stuff we're gonna have to deal with.
And
with
what about
VR
AR?
and all.
I saw you're working with Nissan Generation X.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So yeah, you seen the thing I made for the
Yeah,
thing? Yeah,
that's
yeah. So
mad.
you can make AR stuff very regularly. Like, it's AR. Imagine how dangerous a world is when you can lay digital images and objects over the real world. What are people gonna do with it? So like, there's a thing now you can see. You can look it up on YouTube. I can't remember what it's called, but it's like an AI system that allows you to, like, put words in famous people's mouths. So the demo they use is Barack Obama's thing.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
That's terrifying
Kinda
stuff.
scary,
like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? It's like a computer program that lets you make a digital Barack Obama say whatever you want. So like, I have a kind of feeling that that's been used already. Like, I would lean in towards that there's been news reports put out or comments from people that have probably been done with that already. It just kind of have to be. Like, I always take the honest of, like, the military, you know, when people say, oh, I wonder what technology the military have. Whatever you're seeing, it's like 20 years ahead of that.
Oh, yeah.
It always is.
Holy
So it's the
shit.
same kind of thing. Like, I would imagine we're probably seeing it completely. China's just released
We're
a brand
naive to
new.
it. Like, we just don't know about it yet.
Are you AI? Like, that's maybe. Are you simulation?
Shit. No.
You
no,
guys
no.
are simulated. That's why you're dressed as monks, isn't it? Simulated
Yeah, we're
monks.
just confused.
You're just confused.
Very, very confused.
Yeah, but like, there's an AI news anchor now, which is insane,
Yeah.
from China. Mental kind of.
Did you hear what they're doing in China?
There's
With the
what are you gonna
the
ask
Black
now? Is the
Mirror.
thing.
The
Oh,
Black
the
Mirror episode.
social score thing.
Oh, stop! That is scary as shit.
Well, you know, the China thing is interesting. China have managed now to make 2 female rats have a child. That's shit's insane. Like, that's just they do man stuff. So like, 2 female rats can actually have a kid,
That's
and then
mad.
2 male rats can have a kid. Now what happens is when the 2 female rats have a kid, that kid's fine. When the 2 male rats have a kid, it does not go well. So like, there's lots of weird stuff. China's weird like that. You know,
Yeah.
they're pushing science, but I don't know.
I think-
Are they gonna limit it with like good
Yeah.
social rules maybe? So like, yeah, the Black Mirror thing's insane. Like, I
Yeah.
was just watching a thing about that today. Like, if you go to any of the train stations in, I think it's Shanghai, they take a digital scan of your face when you go in, so they can track you and measure your score.
Where you're
like,
going, everything, man.
what's your social score? Like,
Yeah.
mine would be terrible. You know what I mean? It's like most people's would be terrible.
Yeah.
Imagine social scores in Ireland. Like,
Oh man.
you get your negative points if you park illegally, if you speed, if you drive like an asshole, you know, if you're drunk in public, if you don't. Everyone would be minus a million constantly. There's be no point having it.
I'd be like the national average, like big red flag over Ireland, do not fly here.
Exactly.
Big
Yeah.
danger
The
zone.
national average is like negative 1,000 points each. Yeah. Brilliant. But you nearly get into it. You nearly try and game it. I don't think everyone would take it seriously enough.
No,
So there'd
yeah.
nearly be a competition who could have the worst score.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I'd imagine would happen. Like, what can we do to get the worst score? What can we do? I mean, people burning cars and all just to get the worst score.
Becomes complete anarchy.
It'd be
like-
mental. The
Yeah.
guards would come along and say, "What are you doing that for?" I'm trying to get a negative, like, social score, and then they'd probably go, "That makes sense. Yeah, go on, continue on." Like, we hate that shit as well, so yeah, continue. It's
These guys. And they're trying to do this thing. They're trying to implement crypto as well.
Yeah.
I think they might be the first country to do that.
I don't
And
know.
see, they're ahead of the game like that. You think China, you're like, China. But then...
Exactly, they're ahead of the game on a load of things, but I think it'll bite them eventually. Like, you can't just implement technology for the sake of technology without thinking about the, like, you know, social impact of it. People are what the world is made of, so you can't make robots to get people, or we'll have like Terminator shit on. Like,
what's the story with robots? You know anything about that?
They scare the shit out of me. Like, I'd like a T-1000 would be cool. Like, if I could have one of them from Terminator 2, the liquid dude, that'd be nice.
Chilling around, like
just keep them with you. You know what I mean? You can get them to turn into a car or something, or you do whatever you want. So like, robots are mental. Like, we're gonna see them with cars. Robotic cars are gonna be here soon enough. Self-driving cars, they are already. Like, so I don't know if you've ever been in any of the Teslas before. I've driven one of the Teslas on the M50 here. Well, I didn't drive it. I sat in it and it drove itself. Like, it drove itself a good, like, 10 miles down the road, turned off the motorway, went over the bridge, came back 10 miles again, and basically drove the whole journey itself. Very fast.
That's what it has, this new mode on it where, you know, on the dashboard you can see cars ahead of you, cars behind you, trucks. It recognizes trucks, cyclists, people walking, everything. It's mad.
It can do everything. But then it gets more complicated when you think about, you can download an open source version of the same software. So there's a thing, it came from China again, called, what was it called? I can't even remember. Apollo. It was Apollo. So it's made by Baidu. So Baidu is like Chinese Facebook. They don't have Facebook in China because they don't trust Facebook. I don't know. That's probably a good move, to be honest. But Baidu is Chinese Facebook, and they developed this thing called Apollo. And what Apollo is, it's open source AI for your car, an open source self-driving AI for your car. But they let it out to the world and let everyone develop it. So their version 1 was very simple. You drive your car in like a circle or around a little set course, and you teach the car the course, and then when you taught it, it would replicate it afterwards. Great. That was version 1. 6 months later, version 2 came out, and it was a full self-driving car that would drive you around the city and stop at traffic lights and let pedestrians go and merge lanes. That's in 6 months. Like, that's... Nobody can match that kind of pace. And you can go online now on that computer and download it straight away and put it into something. You know what I mean? People are going to put that stuff in crazy things. Like, you can put it in golf carts, you can put it in buses, you can put
drones
it in anything.
and stuff.
You can put it in drones.
Yeah.
You can put it in drones, exactly. So you can go and spy on people with your drones. Like, cause everyone knows that's what most people do with them. So, like, yeah, you get bored trying to film yourself, so then you say, oh, it's nice filming other people. So
let's check out other people's gardens today.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And then you catch a glimpse in somebody's window, and you're like, oh, I shouldn't do that, but
you go in a bit further, like,
yeah, the little pervert in your head says, oh, let's spy on this person. Like, it's appealing. It's very appealing.
That's mad.
Yeah, so that's tech's so good, but then also so bad at the same time. Like, it's just, you need to be conscious of what you do with it. Like, and again, it's going to be open up to way more people than there's ever been before, which is kind of interesting. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy stuff. But I don't know. So you even look at something like, I don't know if you've ever been to them. So I do an awful lot of the startup weekends. I don't know if you've ever heard of any of them. Like,
my brother knows about it.
There's one this weekend. Are you on?
Next weekend.
This weekend?
Yeah.
Like, it starts tomorrow? Yeah, I'll see you on Saturday. So I'm a mentor at that one on Saturday. So your idea better be good. Or,
What are you, Future X?
Me? Yeah, I'm Future X for the startup week. Yeah. So
It's
this
like Iron Man.
is,
Like,
that's, I named it Future X because it's just kind of cool. Like, it's,
what does X stand for?
X stands for whatever you want it to stand for. That's the point. If you want
Future
to do,
future drone perverts.
yeah, exactly. You could. It's not too late. Like, the startup week's next week. If you want to put in a submission for future drone perverts, we can do that. Like, it's whatever you want. Yeah. So like, I do them all the time, and it's for cases like for you to come along to, or anyone to come along to, and like they pitch an idea, a group of random amassed people all kind of say whether your idea is good or bad, and then a team will pitch to work on it, and you'll work over it over a weekend. So like, you know, I think I've mentored nearly all of them that have been in Ireland for the last 2 years, and they cover stuff like tourism, they cover stuff like digital technology, disability, environmental stuff, sustainability, anything and everything. But like stuff like that is kind of out there, so more people can understand how you can build companies and how you can start with these kind of crazy ideas and turn them into something real. So like these are everywhere, you know, like every university, every kind of, an awful lot of the companies, an awful lot of local authorities have this sort of stuff, and they try and encourage them to happen. Like, it's where I met you guys, like at the entrepreneurial society stuff. They're all there.
That's what I wondered when I read about your Printastic project, I wonder how do you actually reduce waste in oceans and stuff? Because that's actually a really big problem now.
Yeah.
And how do you actually turn that into like usable stuff, like you said, 3D printing filler and rope and stuff?
So it's just, you use technology again in an awful lot of the ways. So that project is not running anymore, but I've taken an awful lot of the stuff and the things I've learned from it, and we're doing other things with it. So it's very, very simple. So you think about it, if you want to turn plastic material, now not all plastic, but some plastics that you take from the sea, it's as simple as grinding it up, melting it, and then you can use it as normal plastic. You know, you can mold stuff with it, you can injection mold with it. Only certain types, which is the problem. And that's the big problem with plastics in general. Like, so, you know, if you go on a beach, there isn't even any plastic bottles here, is there? No. So, you know, a normal clear plastic bottle?
Yeah.
That is such a good material, we can't really do anything useful
Like,
with
look,
it
see that plastic there?
Yeah.
The little vape bottle.
Yeah. Yeah, so stuff like that. Yeah, so you think so that's a load of different plastics in that one thing. So an awful lot of people kind of think, oh, plastic's plastic. There's like hundreds, if not thousands, of different plastic types. So it's like, I make the claim in an awful lot of ways that like plastic is what made humanity. You know what I mean? It was invented in 1940s, 1950s. Stuff like Bakelite, which was terrible. It's still around. Like, you know, they'd make light fixtures out of it, and when it'd get hot, it'd fall to bits and give you cancer. Like, it was a great invention altogether. But you know what I mean? We made so many different types, but we never had to think about what are we going to do with them when it's not the thing we've made it to be in the first place. What do we do with it afterwards? So it means the plastic bottles that we have are they're made from PET, and it's real difficult to recycle afterwards. It's really difficult. So we're in a position in the world now where there's so much stuff we've made and we don't know how to recycle or reprocess it. So it's going to be a massive problem. Like, but what we did with it in a lot of ways is use old school technology, simple stuff again. I'm a simple being, you know what I mean? Most people are, you know what I mean? If there's something in your way, smash it up, you know, that sort of simple kind of solution. So we've looked at cutting, you know, shredding, repurposing different objects into useful things, like real simple stuff, not complicated nuclear, chemical, solar process craziness, just simple stuff. Because if it's simple, anyone can do it. I mean, so again, I kind of designed with the idea if somebody can do it in Africa, you can do it anywhere. So you don't need, you know, you don't need a team of 20 PhDs and $1 million or whatever and fancy tech to do it. You need a scissors and, you know,
and a chauffeur to drive them around.
Maybe, maybe to drive the scissors around.
No, just to drive the PhDs around.
Oh yeah, exactly. The PhDs don't get chauffeurs. Don't study a PhD if you think you want a chauffeur. Do something else. That's not gonna happen. The bus, unless the bus driver's the chauffeur, you call him the chauffeur on the way out, maybe. But yeah, I don't know.
That's mad.
And in terms of the 3D printers, I've actually just been really interested in how they work. Like, how complex can you go with a 3D printer?
Oh well, like they can be as complicated or as simple as you want. Yeah. So it's like from the simple, like from the highest of high end, you know, you can have multi-million-pound machines that use like super high temperature lasers on multiple rotating axes to melt titanium powder. Okay. Like crazy complex stuff. Right down to like I have a €120 printer I bought off GearBest that uses recycled plastic material. You can go super complex or super high end, but it's way more common than people think. Like so it's like if either of you have been on a relatively new Airbus plane in the last 2 or 3 years, a lot of the parts of that engine are 3D printed. Really? Yeah. Jesus. There's an awful lot of stuff and that's the thing. Oh Jesus! A lot of people are like, oh shit. That's like it scares some people. It scares some people. Yeah. Now, so I know, I think it's Airbus that they have a fuel injector in their engine that used to be like something like 18 or 19 different parts, and now they make it in one part by 3D printing it. Wow. So it makes it lighter, it makes it more efficient, it makes it cheaper, it makes everything better. Yeah. But a lot of people are still like, oh shit.
It's the planes, man. Planes scare people, even though it's the safest.
That's going to be scary. Yeah. He's like, okay, we're going to travel to this place. Right, all of these people get into a really uncomfortable seat in a big, long metal tube, and we'll fill it full of lots of pressure, and then we'll fly at 500 miles an hour, 40,000 feet in the air, and hope something doesn't go wrong. Like, they are scary.
Most of the time, everything's alright.
Exactly. Most of the time, everything alright. Unless the plane gets lost, or disappears, or blows up, or crashes, or the wheels fall off, or the wings fall off, or the engines blow up, or some crazy person kills you on the plane, or whatever. Yeah, there's lots of, but that doesn't happen a lot. You know what I mean? I still fly a lot. I like flying, so like I'm not afraid of it. So yeah. It's mental. Yeah, but like that printed stuff is super common.
Yeah.
Like there's probably, like you go into any shop, you go into any kind of department store, there's probably lots of stuff in it that have been printed, and you'd probably never be able to tell.
Yeah.
And it's gonna come to a stage where everything's gonna be printed. I really
Makes
think
sense.
it is gonna be printed. Like, but it'll be printed for you. So you know, if you want a pair of shoes, and it's happening. Like I think Adidas do it.
Wait, you can print shoes?
You can print shoes. Yeah. So like the sole parts of the shoes now at the minute, but not all of them. Yeah. Not all of them. Yeah. Soon enough. I think Adidas do it.
Oh, my new shoes are here. Just take it out of the printer.
That's gonna happen. Like that is gonna happen, and it's not gonna be a long time.
How long does it take to
I
print
don't
stuff?
know. Like you can't have time. Like printing stuff takes a long time at the minute because the machines still aren't very very fast. It does take a long
Just turn
time.
the speed up a little bit.
You can, but then it gets shitty. So it's like everything. If you rush it, it's a shitty job. But yeah, it's it takes a long time at the minute, but it's going to get better.
Yeah.
It is going to get much, much faster. And it is getting faster. But like it's not, it won't be that long until everyone is making their own stuff at home. Like, you know, it was an idea a few years ago that everyone would have a 3D printer. And then it kind of fell out of favour when people realised the process was difficult and the machine, it was a hard thing to do and the machines were complicated. It will be something that everyone will have access to. You might not have the machine, but it'll be nearby. So I mean, if you go to JD Sports or whatever down the road and you want a pair of shoes, in the future they'll measure your feet. You'll choose, or maybe you'll email your design beforehand, so you better hope you're good at designing shoes. Like it's, I would imagine when it happens, there's going to be loads of horrible shoes because people don't know how to design anything.
Yeah.
And then you send your file to the shop, they print out your shoes, and you go down and collect them. And that's gonna come way sooner than we think. Like it's there already. Like it's.
And what's the story with all these fillers as well? Like, surely if you want to print something, you can print metallic stuff, right?
You can print metal stuff, yeah.
And what's the filler like for that?
What do you mean filler?
Like, not the filler, but the stuff that it comes from.
Oh, it comes from. It's like a lot of it's the same stuff. So you're printing metal, you're just printing in powdered metal. So you can make an awful lot of normal powdered metal. So stainless steel, titanium, silver, gold, an awful lot of stuff. It's just normal metal. It's
So
just
it's
in a
just
different
like
shape.
the ink you put into a printer.
It's just, imagine it like a powder. So like nearly like a photocopier, you know. Photocopier uses like powder toner. And it magnetically does it. It's like powder metal, same kind of thing. And it just melts it all together. So there's a company in Cambridge and Boston now called what are they called? I can't even remember what they're called. But they make desktop metal. It's not even a complicated name. They're called desktop metal, and they make desktop metal 3D printers. You know what I mean? They've raised hundreds of millions of dollars. They're making very, very soon. They're going to be releasing machines that you could buy for a couple of €1,000 that sits on your desk and 3D print metal parts.
That's
And
what
then
if you
you-
need like a screw or something in the future. You just be like,
Exactly, but that's you can make screws, you can make brackets, you can make lots of stuff. But what happens then if you need something really specific that nobody else has needed before, and then you make it, and then you realize, oh shit, there's loads of people in the world that need this thing too. You therefore have a business. You know, you make something that's of your design that loads of other people can use. You've got a ready-made business there and then.
that's mad.
So it's going to come to a stage where you'll have normal people making some things we use every day. And they can be making it from their house. You know what I mean? That's crazy. Not a factory.
Like phone cases and...
Phone cases and all have been made for ages. Yeah, you can make phone cases. But what's going to happen now if you can make the phone? You know what I mean? If you have a 3D printer that can print circuitry and circuit boards as well, why not make the phone? What's going to happen then when everyone's phone is different? It's crazy. You'll get to a world where people can't sell you stuff because you want your own thing.
That's what you think 3D printing. Well, I used to think 3D printing, and it's like, we used to have a 3D printer in our secondary school, and you'd print like little plastic models and whatever, like a little standing dude or something.
I still do, yeah.
But
You constantly print 3D printed
you
tat
can't
constantly, yeah.
think of the bigger picture. Like, it's hard to think.
It's hard, yeah, because that's what most people see. Most people see the cheap machine and they see it made for making gimmicks and knickknacks and stuff. But I use one of them super cheap 3D printers to make the prosthetic hands we make.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's 90% the function of a normal prosthetic hand, but costs less than 1% of the cost of a real one, and can be made in a couple of hours versus a few months. Like, you know what I mean? That's a real game-changing move.
It was funny. It was funny what you said when you made that prosthetic hand, and it was green.
Yeah,
She wanted pink.
She wanted a pink one. Yeah, it's gonna happen. Like, you make something and people will be unhappy with it because they see how quick and easy it is to do. That's intrinsically not a bad thing.
No, not at all.
You know what I mean? It could be a great thing. Like, oh great, why is it not pink? I want it
It's that
with
easy to change. Like,
I want it with
shows that-
lasers on it and all. Yeah, exactly. You're gonna get And that comes up an awful lot when it comes to 3D printing. I don't know if you heard about, like, there's 3D printed guns and stuff like that. They come up an awful lot, and a lot of people ask about the 3D printed gun, and anyone that spent an awful lot of time in 3D printing knows that it's not a concern. You know what I mean? Yeah, there's plans for 3D printed guns online, but they're more likely to kill you than they are the person you point the gun at, to be truthful. Like, you know what I mean?
Blows up in your hand.
That's what a lot of them do, yeah. You think about it, if you print it and there's any little mistake in it, you want to be confident that your machine is aligned and you've done a good job printing it, if it doesn't blow your hand off, kind of thing. Like, that's a major concern for them. And then what I say to a lot of people is, if you're competent and, like, technical enough to 3D print a really good quality printed gun that won't kill you over somebody else, you're probably more than competent enough to manufacture a gun yourself. You know what I mean? Out of normal stuff. So you won't bother. Like, there's no need for it. It was lots of controversy, and the guy that designed the plans had lots of controversy. It's an interesting story. His name is Cody Wilson. Read about it. I'm not telling you about it. It's an interesting story. But so it's interesting. Like, there's lots of, that's the technology thing again. What are people gonna do with it? Some people are gonna do real bad shit with it. Some people are gonna do amazing stuff with it. Yeah. So the same machine can make a 3D printed gun, and everyone's terrified. But then the 3D printer can also make low cost prosthetics and give kids hands again. Like, there's two sides to all of these coins. Like, it's not just negative. But unfortunately, people love to talk about the negative. The newspapers and news reporters love to talk about negative stuff. Yeah. They want everyone to be depressed.
Yeah, I guess it sells, doesn't it? But I mean, it's all just tools at the end of the day. There's always a good use and a bad use.
It's a tool.
It's not black and white. You know?
It's a tool, exactly. You can use a screwdriver to assemble IKEA furniture, or you can use it to stick in somebody's neck. You know what I mean?
Exactly,
it's not what it was made for, but you can use it for it. Like, you know what I mean? It could be done. You're not going to go and ban screwdrivers now, you know, that kind of thing. It's,
of course,
That's the tools
you can't use that, but you can.
Exactly, yeah. What are you going to do? Do you have to have a screwdriver license? You know, it's kind of... It's crazy. Like, people are inherently good, but there's also people that are inherently bad. They'll do good or bad shit with whatever you give them. You can't... I'm of the belief, like, that you can't limit them. If you limit the 1% of people if you limit their access to all of this sort of stuff, if you say 3D printers are illegal, for the one... like 0.001% of persons that might try and make a gun, you're gonna lose all of the innovation and benefit from all of the other people that get to it. And it's like it's like legal as well. It's the lowest common denominator. You can't legislate for that. Like, trust people. I trust people. Just trust people. Like,
the creative potential of it just outweighs the
massively so. By so much more. Like, it's just kind of. Just be nice. Like, people are nice. Like, they want to use it for good stuff. Most people want to see the world better around them, not worse. Well, I hope they do anyway. But still, like, from my experience, they do. But I think in general, people do. So,
big time.
Yeah.
All right. Well, on that fantastic note, guys, it's been a hell of a chat. Thanks for coming on.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Incredible. Thanks for having me.
That was sweet.
Yeah. Any like shout outs or anything you want to give out to the boys or the colleagues or anyone?
I forgot them all. Yeah. if I know you, hello. Yeah, that's the extent. Yeah, that's the extent. So
right, good stuff.
Sound. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Cheers.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Catch you next week.
I'll catch you next week.
See you.
Bye.